Good morning, everybody. I'm Aileen. I'm one of the nurses here at the Irish Heart Foundation, and today I'm going to do a presentation for you on stroke fatigue. I'm just going to share my screen. And here we go, stroke fatigue. Stroke fatigue is something that we talk about to our members all the time. There's rarely a day that goes by where we don't discuss it with somebody. And more than 50% of people who've recovered from stroke would describe fatigue as one of their most concerning symptoms in the weeks and months following their stroke. So it is something significant that happens to lots of people. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and describe what stroke fatigue is, and also describe what it isn't. We'll talk about the causes of stroke fatigue and what's understood there, and also what's not understood. We'll talk about what influences stroke fatigue. And because we'll have done all of these, like understanding what it is, the causes and the influences, we can then go on and talk about how you can manage your stroke fatigue. There is no silver bullet. There is no cure for stroke fatigue. It is about just finding your pathway through the stroke fatigue until it passes. So what is it? First of all, just to say, it is not tiredness. You are not being lazy. You are not lacking motivation. These are the things we hear from members where people are being actually really hard on themselves, saying, I just can't get motivated. You could be suffering from post-stroke fatigue, and it's characterized by a feeling of extreme weariness, tiredness, and lack of energy. And sometimes this feeling or these feelings aren't resolved just by having a good night's sleep. They can rear their head literally from first thing in the morning to last thing in the night time. Just to give you a representation of how a healthy brain who hasn't had a stroke might function versus the injured brains. This is somebody who's had a stroke. So in the evening, both brains are depleted of energy, for sure. Both bodies are depleted of energy because we've gotten up, maybe we've gone to work, maybe we have talked to friends on the phone, maybe we have made the dinner, maybe we've, gone to do the shopping. There could be lots of different things that could be involved in any of our kind of daily lives. So at the end of the day, we're depleted. This is normal. If the person with the healthy brain gets a call from their friend and their friend needs something, so their friend needs help, they might need a lift somewhere, or maybe the friend has something to offer. They're saying, I've got tickets to this show and it's really good, and the person is supposed to go, it can't come. Are you free to come? The person with the healthy brain will be able to say, yes, I can help. Or yes, I can come along to the show and I'm going to really enjoy it because I'm tired, but I'm going to use the reserves that I have left. If that same scenario happened to somebody with an injured brain and they got that telephone call, they don't have reserves. You've used the reserves just in your daily life. So again, cut yourself some slack, know how to prioritize and pace yourself, and know that those reserves aren't available to you at the moment. So what might be the causes of post-stroke fatigue? Well, just to say, the causes are numerous, and the causes are likely, are definitely very complex. These causes come up as kind of, in a lot of the research. So the first one is endocrine abnormalities. This would be changes kind of in the hormone pathways and hormone balances. The second two are linked. So inefficiencies in brain function after your brain injury, or changes to the brain function and brain structures, should I say, and they're probably interconnected. But, and there's a big but, we don't really fully understand what is going on and what is causing stroke fatigue, post-stroke fatigue. What I am going to discuss today is how maybe inefficiencies and changes to the brain structures, I'm going to give you some visuals as to how that might be kind of working out and why that might cause some fatigue. So this road network represents your brain before your brain injury. before your stroke. So we can see we have lots of roadways, we have lots of pathways, we have traffic going in all different directions. This represents the brain, and its messages going from here to there and there to here. Everybody knows where they're going. It's on a busy road, but they're not going to get held up. So if the yellow car over here to the left, say this car is bringing a message about it's doing your shopping list in your head. And it has a clear pathway and it's going to be able to do that. The green car up here might be the one organizing the coordination that you're using right now to make your cup of tea. Okay, and maybe this fella down here, the purple fella, is maybe listening to the radio that you have on in the background. So we're doing the shopping list in the head, we're making the cup of tea, the radio is on in the background. All of these pathways for all of these things going on in your brain and the challenges are clear. They can move. It's busy, but it's fine. Everybody has a space. After you've had your stroke, things are a little bit different. So you've had a clot or you've had a bleed. And this we would represent in this picture here as a traffic jam. So there's a blockage in this road. All right, it's affecting this road here to the left, it's affecting all the way down here, but you'll notice on all the surrounding channels or roads, there's also lots more traffic. So we said at the start here, this yellow car here was sorting out your shopping list. Well, now there's other cars also on that road, so that channel has become busier, okay? This fella up here, this green fella, was helping you make your tea and was sorting all of that. And again, he's coming from quite a busy road and going on to quite a busy road. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's not just that we have this blockage, so maybe some of these thoughts will need to pass through this blockage, but also around the blockage or the traffic jam, all the other roads get much busier. This is representing your brain. If we can't get your messages through this normal channel here because of the traffic jam, it affects the traffic jammed area, but it also affects the surrounding area. So we need to take a detour, okay? And we need to consider how long is the detour going to take. So for this thought process, say the injured area of your brain has affected your ability to read. Well, in order to read a word or a number of words, your brain needs to take a detour. It's now going on to these busier roads or channels. So again, it's going to just take longer. If you need to take a detour in your car, it's generally a longer trip. So it's going to take more fuel. So again, in your brain, if you can't read in your normal pathway because there's a traffic jam and you need to go around it, it's going to take up a lot more fuel, and fuel is your energy. So it's taking away your energy. So something that once didn't take up too much fuel because there was a motorway built to create that reading channel. Now we can't go on the motorway. It's not available. So we need to go around it. So we need to use extra fuel to do that. And with this type of detour, we're going through a tunnel here, we mightn't even be able to bring the car. So we might need to, climb the cliff. Same goes in your brain. Sometimes the channels are so congested, you can't even bring the car. So your processing is even slower, and that will use up more fuel and cause potentially more fatigue. So taking these detours, so we can't go through the traffic jam anymore because it's a traffic jam, there is no way through, the messages or the channel is broken, we need to go around it, and this process is called neuroplasticity. Your brain is amazing, and neuroplasticity allows you to regain function. So if the part of your brain that was injured is affecting your reading, it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to read again. If the part of your brain that is affected is affecting your speech, it does not mean that you'll never be able to speak again. Your brain can change through regrowth, reorganization, and it can rewire itself so that it can function differently than it previously did. So these detours that it's having to take now, that take loads of energy, they take lots of time, they over time will become more efficient. So let's say where that traffic jam is, say that roadway can never be used again. Well, the detoured pathways, you'll get to know them. They'll become more efficient. Maybe we'll widen the road and there'll be a bit of roadworks there to make the road widen, and you'll get your efficiencies back again. But in the short term, fatigue is the price you pay for this amazing process. So instead of your brain getting to the channel, meeting the traffic jam and stopping and just doing nothing, your brain will turn around, move back, and create a new pathway. But this new pathway takes time and it takes energy. And this is probably what is causing your fatigue. Okay, we'll move on now a little bit into factors that may be contributing to your fatigue. So there's two that we talk about often where you can kind of influence them. You mightn't be able to change them totally, but you can make choices around them. And that's around your lifestyle and around your environment. And then in relation to stuff that you can't change is, for example, you can't change your stroke type. So wherever your stroke struck, whatever it's affecting now, that just is what it is, and we need to move forward from that. But in relation to your stroke type, all is not lost. Ask questions, understand your brain injury and its impact. Find out where your traffic jam is. If your traffic jam is affecting your coordination or your balance, that's why exercise is more tiring for you than the person who's doing it beside you, who doesn't seem to be that fatigued by it at all. If the part of your brain that has been affected is your speech or your word finding, for example, having conversation with friends may be really difficult, or being on the phone might be difficult. So again, understanding where your traffic jam is can just help you understand what is going to be more challenging for you. So you can understand where the detours are. And it's not to avoid the detours. You have to take the detours in order to develop those new channels and pathways. But understanding them is good. It's good empowerment. It gives you a feeling like, well, I know how this is going to roll. In terms of the things you can change, we talk about your environment. So that's like where you live your life in your day. So that could be your bedroom. That could be your house. That could be your family or other houses that you visit, your work environment, your community. Anywhere where your environment is, talk to your family or your employers and kind of prioritize where you want to be and what you want to do. An example that you could use here in talking to your family, you could just, if you're a household that always had music or radio on in the background, and maybe that's just a stimulant too much for your brain because your brain needs to figure that out. That's another channel being used. You're making that road busy. You could say to your family, do you know what? Do you mind if we just leave the radio off for the time being? Let them know that this might be helpful for you, because your priorities will need to change. You can't be all things to all people. You are likely not going to be able to go back to work and do exactly what you did before. You're going to need to either ease yourself in or again prioritize, where your strengths are, and recognize where maybe you're not as strong at the moment as you were before. When people change their priorities to help manage their fatigue, sometimes their hobbies and interests go out the window, and sometimes they're the first thing to be pushed to the side. And I put it up here on purpose to say that, hobbies and interests should be a priority. They feed your soul. They're often a really valuable source of connection with other people. So don't just immediately say, well, I don't need to, go to my sports club, or I don't need to, whatever do my painting at the moment, or my whatever your interest is, just stop, take a step back and think, well, what does that hobby or interest do for me? And should I be prioritizing it at the moment? Other things that you can influence that can affect your fatigue or your lifestyle. So we'll talk a little bit about diet, and we'll talk about what might trigger you. Do activity to suit your limits. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes in terms of pacing. So getting to know where the line is, and you should kind of reach the line, you should try and push that limit, but don't exceed the limit again and again and again. We'll talk a little bit about good sleep practices, and then engage with your medical professionals. Don't just attend your appointments. It's often good if you go and you engage. And like I said, find out more about your brain injury, find out more about, timelines and what you can be doing at home. Take an active part in your recovery. So what do you need more of? Good quality sleep. So all sleep is not equal. So good quality sleep, 7 to 9 hours, they would say, is what would be recommended. A good, nice, consistent sleep routine, as in getting ready for bed. What is your thing? What do you like? Is it a little bit of meditation? Is it just to mindfully brush your teeth? I don't know, whatever your thing is. Avoiding lying in the morning, even though if you are feeling fatigued, that can be difficult, but that can be a tricky cycle then to get out of, because you don't get out of the bed and then you find it hard to go to bed the following night. So trying to, as well as going to bed at a regular time, trying to get up at a regular time can be really helpful. Keep your room nice and dark. And your room should be relatively colder than the rest of your house. So about 18 degrees is what's recommended. Eat more fruit and veg. Think about not just about being healthy, but think about feeding your brain with all these lovely micronutrients, all these vitamins and minerals that'll feed your brain and help developing these new roadways, these new channels that we need to create because of the traffic jam. And just take a minute and breathe, okay? Get your feet on the ground, feel the earth underneath you, and just give yourself some time. That can be for 10 seconds or 10 minutes, whatever feels comfortable or right to you, but consciously try and do it. Be mindful. I talked about what foods might trigger you. So things like caffeine and sugar might be something that's craved by you when you're fatigued. And for sure, they'll help in that really short-term time. They'll give you that burst of energy, but it's not real. And often it's followed by a bigger dip than where you started. So just be really mindful to kind of avoid excesses of these. With caffeine, it affects everybody differently, but the overall recommendations is that you shouldn't have any caffeine past 12 o'clock in the day, so 12 noon. So like your morning coffee is fine, but maybe try your decaf then after that, just in case it's affecting that nighttime sleep. And again, my Superman down here, he could be Superwoman either. It's about being all things to all people. So prioritizing. What can you do today, and what maybe needs to be put off tomorrow. So avoid being Superman or Superwoman to prove that you're grand, okay? So let's move on a little bit to managing stroke fatigue. And when we're talking about managing stroke fatigue, the 3 Ps comes up a lot in management strategies. So it's about planning the week ahead or the day ahead or the month ahead, prioritizing. What do I need to do? Do I need to go to work? Do I need to give somebody a lift somewhere? Do I need to go to a medical appointment? Do I need to do my hobby and interest? And then pacing yourself. So if you need to do all of those things, so you need to bring somebody somewhere, you need to go to a medical appointment, all of these things, you can't do them all on Monday morning. You're going to pace yourself. So you're going to decide to do one of these on Monday, 2 of these on Tuesday, but 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. Again, so just pacing yourself, not getting everything done on Monday and then been wrecked and fatigued for the rest of the week. But it has got to be said that when fatigue is at its worst, even thinking about managing it can be really tiring. And it can be really draining. And sometimes just you don't have the mental headspace to do that. And, that's completely understandable. So I have found with people in the past, if they can find a strategy that kind of speaks to them and looks to them a way that they can think about it, that can be really helpful in that the managing of the fatigue isn't as draining. I'm going to talk you through a few strategies. None of these might work for you. Some of them are more short-term strategies. Others are more kind of your longer-term strategies. But if you want to talk about any of these more, feel free to contact us. So an easy strategy idea, and this is one that I often start off with people, is the number strategy. So it could be the 1-1-1 strategy. So the 1-1-1 strategy is that you rest for 1 hour every day. Rest doesn't mean going to bed or going to sleep. Rest can be just sitting down, relaxing, doing something you enjoy that settles the mind. So the 1-1-1 is rest for 1 hour every day, rest for 1 day every week, and rest for 1 week every month. So if you're looking at the day ahead, where is my hour of rest? If you're looking at the week ahead, there needs to be a day where there are no plans. And if you're looking at the month ahead, there needs to be a week where there is no plans. At start, this might be a 3-3-3 strategy. So it might be that I need to rest for 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, and 3 weeks in the month. Okay, so I can only have 1 busy week in the month. For others coming out of the hospital, it might be the 4-4-4 strategy. So I need to rest for 4 hours every day, 4 days every week, and I can't have a busy week at all. Okay, so 4 weeks every month. See what might speak to you there. Another easy one is that you can draw out a piece of pie or cake, and you can cut that up into different pieces of pie. So you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe, again, you're not at the stage where you can plan, prioritize, and pace. That's a bit too overwhelming at the moment. But you can figure out when you're feeling that weariness or fatigue, what are your strategies? What do you need to do right now? So do you need to delegate? So I can't bring you here. I can't do that lift for you. And you need to delegate, ask somebody else to do it. Do you need to take a short nap? Do you just need to change your task type? So say if the area of your brain that's been affected is the area around speech or word finding, you might find that, well, I need to remove myself from this conversation, or I'm not going out to meet that group of friends, but I quite enjoy maybe watching something on TV, or I'd enjoy listening to some music because that's something that, makes me feel better. So whatever kind of piece of pie you need to take, you go ahead and do that. If you're using this strategy, I would really encourage you to do the cake and have several pieces of pie, because if every time you feel fatigued, it means that you have to take a nap, that may not always be possible, because you may not have a chair, that's comfortable to take a nap in, or a bed or whatever. You may not be in a position where you can do that. So if you're out in public or something like that, and you're really struggling with fatigue, you need to be able to do something that you can do there. So you need different pieces of pie that you can work with in different scenarios. This is more of a long-term option, and this is the spoon theory. This one was developed actually for people living with autoimmune diseases or conditions. I think it was actually developed initially for people diagnosed with lupus, but it represents anybody who's struggling with any kind of chronic fatigue. So the whole idea is that you have a number of spoons to work with in a day. So a healthy brain, let's say a healthy brain has 25 spoons to work with in a day. So they've loads of spoons. So it might cost them 2 spoons to have their breakfast. It might cost them only 2 spoons to have a social event. So they've loads of spoons to work with. When we have had a brain injury, we will have less spoons to work with, and certain things will cost us more spoons. So for example, if we're doing that social event and we're meeting with friends and we're struggling maybe with speech or word finding, that might cost us 5 spoons. Okay, so if you've decided that you can have 15 spoons in the day, that's your limit, you can very much so plan. Okay, so you can say, well, I do want to meet my friends tonight. I do want to go to that social event. I know it's going to cost me 5 spoons and I've only 5 spoons left. Well, then, making the dinner that evening, maybe you need to delegate that out because you won't have enough spoons for everybody. So this one is a little bit more of a longer term strategy, like I say, because you need to figure out, well, how many spoons do I have? And what is costing me spoons? Okay. And I found this works very well for members because they can discuss it very well with their friends and family. And if they're opting out of, cooking that evening or, helping out in the garden or whatever, opting out of a social event, for example, they can just say, look, I actually have no spoons left. If you allocate yourself 15 spoons and, for example, you have a really important family event, I don't know, it's a wedding or something where you're thinking, I'm never going to get through that day with 15 spoons. You can save up some spoons maybe for the day before, not have as many spoons for the day after. And you can, we can all go for it. Again, that's about prioritizing. Am I going to overuse my spoons today, knowing that I will need to have less spoons tomorrow? So again, this is a really good way to plan, prioritize, and pace. We do a course here at the Irish Heart Foundation. It's a 6-week course about fatigue management, and it goes into some of the things we've discussed here today in a lot more detail. You meet up online every week for 6 weeks, and the sessions are about 1.5 hours. And each weekly workshop deals with a different area around fatigue. But really importantly, there's like peer support and kind of sharing of experiences, and you have other people with the same lived experiences as you, and that is really powerful. And then after the course is over, so after the 6 weeks is over, people are given a kind of a 3-week break to go away and kind of figure out their learnings from the course. And then you come back together for a final kind of meeting to reflect on the process and see how things might have changed or improved for you. If you have any questions about the course or anything that I've discussed today, please send your questions. You can send them directly to myself. I'm at agillick@irishheart.ie, or call our nurse support line at any stage to speak to one of our nurses.